Now? What is going on with this? I
Yeah, you're
cannot.
on. You're on.
Oh my
Good
God.
morning.
I got too
It's all the
many.
bells and whistles now. Now you're high end. You
Jesus
know, with the countdown and the quotes and.
Christ. I gotta click 10 things before I can start the dang show. I appreciate you guys up bearing with me. Well, what I was trying to say is Happy Friday, and I hope you guys are ready for this spring market. I know we're starting to see more activity, which is awesome. Going to get a little bit of rain up here in New England, but hopefully at least it's a little bit warmer. We got our lenders with us, so that is awesome. We're going to have an awesome Finance Friday. I wanted to kick it off. I see Steve Henn on. Any update for us, Steve? We had a real deep dive on cash yesterday. You got anything for us as far as how it shook out?
Yes, so we're planning on Monday going to a local TD bank which the seller has. She's going to bring the money there. They're going to count it, try to verify it, deposit it right there, sign the paperwork, and should be good.
All right. All right. Well, so next week we will get the final update, which will be cool. Why don't I turn it over to the lenders? We have gone back and forth on this well flow test, and we are still in limbo. Lenders have verified they just do not need this, and Sherwood is adamant that it is a guideline. So until Sherwood can get me something from the lending side of things, not just from their inspector side of things, I think we are going with we do not need the extended well flow test. But Dan, I see you with camera on, ready to go. What do you got for us today?
Hey,
Uh-oh.
and regarding that well flow test, we have gone and verified with underwriting. We've researched that guideline and even reached out directly to HUD for guidance on that. So we're sure that we're looking at that the right way. Another release this week that happened with HUD, I think we had sent out an update to everybody. So you might have seen something from us already, but regarding non-permanent residents and FHA loans. In the past, non-permanent residents would be eligible for FHA loans, as long as their residency in the country is valid, like they're on a valid visa or whatever the case may be. But as of May 25th, and what that means really is that your buyer would have to go under contract and have a case number. So they'd have to have their FHA case number assigned prior to May 25th. Because after that date, non-permanent residents will no longer be eligible for FHA loans. They can still go a conventional route if they're eligible for a conventional mortgage, but FHA in particular will not insure those loans anymore for non-permanent residents. And I know that immediately there's a few loans in our pipeline that would be affected by that. So we've been kind of reaching out to everybody here this past couple of days to just kind of try to set some urgency now with everybody and let everybody know the situation where it's like, hey, you are pre-approved, you are eligible for this loan type as of right now, but in the future that's going to change and you will become ineligible. So if you really want to get this done, let's find you something right away. I don't know if anybody has any loans in their pipeline that they think might be affected by this, or if anybody has any questions that you might want to ask regarding that.
And so just a quick recap here on types of non-permanent residents. I just threw this into ChatGPT. This would be international students, temporary foreign workers, refugees, asylum seekers, visitors, travelers, exchange program participants, so students or professionals doing temporary training or internships, spouses, family members, or temporary visas who accompany someone with a work or study visa. So they don't have a green card, and and usually have to leave the country once their visa or permit expires unless they change their status. So those are, the types of people that would be affected with this change. So I don't know if anybody else wants to just add anything or has any questions around it.
Well, I would say with that list that you had just kind of read off of there,
Yep.
not all those people are going to be really applying or eligible for loans for the most part anyway. Especially like student visas and stuff. Students aren't really buying. They don't have the income and employment history yet for the most part usually. So it really is those people who are on those work visas, who are here for work temporarily. In the past, we would help them with an FHA loan for a home purchase, but it's going to be limited. And it does affect more. If someone comes to this country and they haven't been here all that long, their credit history here may be more limited. In fact, we had mentioned this client here on this show on this meeting before, where I have a guy who is from Brazil. He has a house in Brazil. He's relocated here. He's been here for just about 1 year. The guy's got everything you need to buy a house, but because his credit is a little bit limited, he's a 640 something credit score right now, just because he doesn't have a long history here of having credit in the U.S. with our system. And because of that, he's really only going to be eligible for an FHA loan. Although he could put down 20%, he has good income and a good job, he's still going to be limited to that FHA loan type, because in that scenario, he's got that kind of lower, more limited credit. And that might be something that kind of comes up. It might be kind of a theme where you see that, sometimes people come here, they don't have a long-standing credit history. It takes a little while to build it up. Now, if you've got someone who's been here for several years, then they've had the opportunity to establish their accounts and their credit and their payment history and everything. But it's for those people on those work visas who have just kind of relocated here somewhat recently, it's going to make it more difficult for them after May.
So Dan, in the case of your gentleman from Brazil, he'll still be able to move forward
Before May 25th.
Right.
So he's in that category where we have to find him something and get him under contract and get his FHA case number pulled prior to that date.
So I guess just, sound the alarms. If you think you've got somebody in this category, we've got to get them out looking at properties, and we got to get them under contract by May 25th.
Exactly.
Anybody have any questions around this one? All right, so we got about 2 months. Sorry, we got 60 days on these folks. What else is going on in finance, Dan? What else do we need to know?
Well, as far as loan program changes, updates, nothing really major here this week. Interest rates are pretty, I would say, compared to last week, maybe a tick higher. But it's still like that long-term cases towards better rates. Looking to hopefully see some lower rates soon. But whether the rates go up or down, we definitely want to do all we can to kind of make this the most productive spring and summer that we can put together here. We've got every loan program under the sun. We've talked about a lot of non-QM stuff before. I know Eric had brought it up in the past. That's another thing that I've been coming across recently more too, are those DSCR loans. So that's something to think about too. If you have any people, any clients or leads that are calling you and talking about wanting to buy investment properties, you could say, hey, listen, there are so many different options now for investment purchases that you might want to take a look and talk to my lender, because they can make it a lot easier, number one. But also, like, if you're a well-qualified buyer now, those DSCR programs, where in the past the rates used to be considerably higher than a standard conventional loan, they're really not anymore. They're much closer to a conventional loan rate. So we've been doing a lot more of those non-QM investor products lately.
Anybody have any general finance questions for Dan? Anything about the non-QM stuff? And if not, maybe we just open the floor. Maybe somebody's got something pretty cool going on one of their deals that we can chat about. Who's got something? If we don't have something going on in a deal, I do have something that I wanted to share just quickly for those of you guys. And let me get my share screen up here. For any of those of you who are using the RPR mobile stuff, we talked about that maybe a month ago or so about the power of RPR. Their mobile app, and you'd have to get the latest version of the app, did introduce some AI-powered property summaries. So I know a lot of us on the team are using Follow Up Boss, and we're sending out properties through Ylopo, which I still think for FUB users would be the preferred method. If you're not a FUB user and you're looking for ways to quickly get property information out, I thought this was a pretty cool addition that they've added, where you can send a property, but then use the AI button in this AI summary to just kind of ping your client with a little bit of knowledge regarding the property. So I don't know, just making it a little bit easier for you guys to work on the fly. You know, hey, you get that text message. Hey, have you seen that property over at 123 Main Street? This is a quick AI summary instead of having to pull it up and look through a full sheet or pull it up in the MLS. Thought this was a pretty cool little tool that they've introduced. So keep an eye on that. If you've never used RPR, I would download that mobile app and take a peek. Anybody using the mobile app? I know we've talked about people using RPR for their CMAs. I'm just curious if anybody's using the mobile app.
Oh.
Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, I try to use it. I really just started getting into it. I've had it for a long time, and everybody should know that one, it's included with your NAR dues. RPR is. So it seems like a real good tool, and I've been getting a lot of stuff lately for them hitting up for taking some of their webinars. So I did jump on one yesterday. There's so much more in there than I've ever known. I think I've just tried to get back to it to find something like this that I could use on the fly. And really, they were going through all the AI stuff that's in there that you can add to just putting in the commentary, or you can make a video script, any way you want to do it. There's a lot of things in there, and again, there's dig into it, take some of their classes. I would encourage you. I think it's for anybody who's interested in it. It seems like a very viable tool to have on the go and to be able to send something out there of value to people.
Awesome. I'm glad you're seeing the value. I think it is one of the better things that NAR does give to us as agents, is this RPR tool. Anybody else using it? Want to comment on it? How you're using it? All right. Well, download it, give it a shot, come back and tell us what you learn. Next thing I had teed up, we've done a little bit of Ask Vin in the past, and I love the way that he approaches communication. And we hadn't done much of him for a while, so I teed this video up. If we had some downtime, let's take a look and we can discuss.
People when you've just met them. Whenever I do an event, okay, sometimes people come up to me. Sometimes someone is shy and they come up to me. They go, "Oh, hey Vin, I just wanted to come up to you and say it was amazing. I just wanted to say thank you so much." If I came into that,
Are you guys not seeing?
Yeah, there's no video.
There we go. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can refresh that.
call with people when you've just met them. Whenever I do an event, okay, sometimes people come up to me. Sometimes someone is shy and they come up to me. They go, "Oh, hey Vin, I just wanted to come up to you and say it was amazing. I just wanted to say thank you so much." If I came into that conversation, I went, "Oh my goodness, what was your favorite part?" Hey? Come on, tell me. They'll be like,
You guys are hearing the audio but not seeing the video? Huh. That is weird. I don't know why it is not doing full screen share. Well, the audio is really the important part, so I'm going to keep going with this. I really do think this building rapport is important to understand.
So what you do is when someone's talking, listen to their foundations. I recognize rate of speech, a little bit fast, they're nervous. I also recognize volume, a little bit low because they're nervous. Cool, all good. So they come up to me like, oh, Evan, I just wanted to say, thank you so much. And I go, oh, thank you so much for coming up. I know it's so scary coming up and speaking to the speaker sometimes, but I'm glad you're here. Instant connection, instant rapport. They feel safe. But then what happens is you meet them where they are, and then you take them to where you want to go. So you don't just stay there. So you go, hey, I'm so glad you came up to me. Thank you so much. Hey, can I ask you, what was your favorite part? And then you watch them slowly be led by you. And as you do this seamlessly and elegantly, you watch them come out of their shell because they're in rapport with you now, and now you're leading them to where you want to go. And that's a whole nother level. How can you instantly build rapport with people?
So I wanted to share this because we've been kind of reviewing a lot of our lead follow-up lately, doing some pipeline review about how our agents are following up with leads. What emails are we sending? What text messages are we sending? How many phone calls are we making to try and get back into rapport with a lead that might have come in 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 2 years ago? Right? And I don't think it's any different necessarily for a sphere that you haven't been in contact with for a while. Is trying to find, I think a lot of people go to, I got to try and find something in common, where it's with regards to, hey, we both fish and I got to go to fishing, or we're both into cars and I got to start talking about cars. But I like the way Vin talks about energy levels, and then, kind of meeting them where they're at, and you hear that term mirroring and matching. But when we listen to, in our case, we get the advantage to listen to a lot of the Zillow calls, because those are the only recorded calls that we have. And you can tell that the really good agent is extremely good at matching the tone, meeting them where they are, and then maybe if they're a high energy person, kind of getting them to a high energy space. And then the newer agent, or the less fine-tuned agent with regards to communication, is just, they're completely off, right? They may know the information about the property, but they're completely off on their speed and their tone. So I wanted to bring up, if you haven't listened to yourself, try and get a recording. If you've got the fortune of being an agent that has recorded calls, whether it's Zillow or maybe some other lead source that you have. Otherwise, try and just record some of your calls when you're talking to somebody. Ask them if it's okay, and then just kind of listen back. I think you're going to learn a lot from listening to those calls about how you are connecting, and just some opportunities to just get a little bit better at the connection. I don't know if anybody on the call feels like they've done a really good job of kind of listening to themselves, or they've heard some calls back and they've made some adjustments. Anybody want to be vulnerable and kind of talk about what adjustments maybe they've made, or some things that they're thinking now when they're talking to a lead? Anybody have kind of a system that they're using in their head to make sure that they're doing this? I think some people do it naturally, and I think other people got to really work at it. Any thoughts around this? Lauren?
When training with agents, especially on scripts, when it's something, very new, one of my biggest recommendations is always for them to record themselves while they're learning the script, right? Because like you were saying, there's a lot of them who will pick up exactly the words that need to be said, kind of the idea and the flow of the way things. But it is the deliverance of it, and the tone, and the confidence behind the words that usually takes a little bit of time for building. And most people are going to be the biggest critics of themselves, right? So just going through like role playing where you're not really hearing yourself going through it isn't as effective sometimes as recording yourself just on your phone, even, right? Having the talk with yourself, and then listening back to it, because there's going to be things that you pick up on, like, oh geez, I need to fix that. I have too many breaks in my speech, or too many ums. And I think it just is a tool that definitely helps. So if you can't get a hold of recordings of your conversations with other people, if you're practicing, with somebody at home, or just with yourself, listen back to it.
That's some great advice. And don't forget, this isn't just for phone calls, guys. This is first client meeting in the driveway, right? This is, even for somebody that was referred to you, that first impression is a big deal. What are the little things that you are doing with your tone, with the speed of your speech, to make sure that you're connecting with these people, that they feel comfortable with you, that they're going to come back to you. It's amazing. One of the things that we see because we get so many of these recordings and we get so many of these Zillow leads is these people that they have an agent, and yet, or they say they have an agent, and yet they are calling in. And I feel very confident that if one of our top agents were to meet that person in the driveway, they'll be able to take that client from the person that they're already working with. We see our best agents able to do that, and we see our weakest agents unable to do that. Oh, you've already got an agent, no problem. Right? You'd have to call them if you wanted to see the property. Right? Where the best agent is kind of inquisitive of, if you already have an agent, how come you didn't call that agent for your showing? Oh, they're on vacation. Oh, they didn't have a backup plan? What if your dream home were to come to market this week? What was your plan? In New England, properties are still moving pretty quick. I find it odd that your agent didn't go over a plan of attack if something were to come on the market this week on how you were going to get that property. Right? And here's how we handle it here. Right? And even if you're a solo agent and you don't have a team, you should still have a game plan. You can't just go on vacation and not communicate with your clients, especially your A's, your people that, you're showing homes and writing offers and not have a plan. You just left for vacation and said, hey, I'm going to be away for the week. If you guys haven't seen the stat, I think it was like the top 10% of the agents are now controlling like 90% of the business. And I expect that margin or that gap to continue to widen. It's going to be the top producers and the biggest teams. They're going to continue to take the market share. It's extremely difficult to outperform a team as an individual. And the way I think your top producers are doing it is they have an assistant. They have a buyer's agent, right? So if you're kind of in that messy middle, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for you moving forward. So just have a plan, right? There's got to be somebody in the office that you could partner up with when you go away. Hey, you know what? I'm going to be away for the week. My friend and colleague at the office here, Johnny, is going to be completely available to you. I've made him aware. Matter of fact, I'm put you on a joint text message with Johnny just so you have his information. But don't go away. Don't leave your clients stranded. Don't have a plan of attack for these types of things. Does anybody want to kind of comment on this, how they're handling it, or maybe some different strategies than kind of what I've put on the table? I think this stuff is really important. And I think if you guys don't have these strong bonds, the stronger agents will take your clients. Steve.
So I actually am sniping a client from somebody else. I did that yesterday. So I got a lead, another mobile home. Spoke to her. She was like wowed by me, and I know there's a correlation between my work atmosphere and how smooth I am on the phone. So when it's, at night and I got all 5 kids running around and I'm like, be quiet, and I'm running to my office real quick, it takes me a second to get in that flow. But when I'm in the right, atmosphere and I'm ready to hit the phones and confident and all that, like the conversations are, night and day between the two. So I had a good scenario yesterday. I had a quiet house, kids weren't home yet, made the phone call. This lady loved me, referred me to her sister. He's like, oh, we already toured some other homes. So that prompted me to like, okay, so you toured homes. Do you have a buyer's agreement? And they're like, yeah, we're not really impressed with that. We get a good vibe from you. So I asked when it expires, April 1st. I'm like, that's next week. And so, I let them know that they want me to be their guy. And I said, I certainly will be. I don't want to, step on their toes. But I'm happy to help you. And it sounds like they're willing to sign a, 60-day agreement with me once they're a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that kind of blows my mind on these situations is if you are an agent and you think you're at the top of your game and you're doing this full time and you're really working hard to be a top producer, you've got to have the conversation with your client about how Zillow works, how realtor.com works, how homes.com works, right? And that needs to be part of your buyer's presentation. You got to have that conversation of like, hey, we're working together. I'm your single point of contact. If you call into Zillow, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get another agent, right? And you're going to have to explain the whole process, everything that we've already gone over so that I understand who you are and what your needs are. You're going to have to go through that whole process again. Right. And it amazed me. We just had this happen with a top agent whose client is calling in. And it's like, how has that agent not had that conversation with the client to explain the process and to let them know you want anything? I'm your single point of contact. Chris.
I just wanted to add that like our words matter. And like I would never, as everybody knows, take anybody's client ever if they are happy. But it is our job to take care of these people. That's our due diligence. And when somebody says, I'm not happy with my agent, that's a whole other story. You know what I mean? Because we do have to look at it as, it's our fiduciary duty to bring them, excuse me, the best, of what an agent can be. And I think that just answering your phone's a huge thing. I got a call the other night, Sunday night, 7:00. My phone's ringing and I'm like, ugh, do I really want to pick this up? It's an 860. I pick it up. It's a Connecticut agent. Now, mind you, I'm her third call off of Google. So I'm not her first call. I'm her third, which pissed me off right there. I got to work on my marketing there that I was the third. But anyways, I was the first one to pick up the phone. Her buyer, who she's not in a Massachusetts agent, went to an open house, wanted me to put in an offer for a 25% referral. I did. It happened. It's going through. And now I'm making that. And I cannot tell you the amount of people that say you're the agent that picks up the phone. So as an agent, we got to pick up our phone.
Yeah, I love that story. And I think a new agent says, well, how could, that agent, I can't believe that agent took my client. Did they take your client or did you lose your client? Did you not have a good enough buyer's presentation? Did you not take the time to educate that client, right? Because the top producer, when they get in front of that client, they're going to explain how they run their process, right? They are trying to say, hey, look, I do this for a living. Does your other person do this for a living or is it a hobby? And do you want a hobbyist when you're about to make your biggest investment or do you want a professional? Because that's what I am. And I think the new agents are like, well, how could they do? Why are they doing that? Why are they trying to take my client? They're professionals. If you were taking this as a professional and you had that conversation, your client would not even be in a dialogue with anybody else. You would be on speed dial and any real estate questions they have would come to you. So, when we think about, losses as learning opportunities, like that's the way, if this has happened to you, right? I think you need to look in the mirror and say, did I do everything I possibly could have to help that client, to put that client in a position to win, to explain the process, to explain how Zillow works, to explain how other agents might try and get them, to explain the process at an open house, that agent represents the seller. They may try and talk to you about putting an offer in directly through them. What does that mean? If you've got clients and you haven't had those conversations, and then something happens and the client's no longer your client, that's on you. Chris.
Super quick. The only other huge thing is don't overpromise and underdeliver. Do not. Because I did lose one a few months ago because this agent came in and said, no, I can get you this amount of money. I promise you. And now 30 or 90 days later, that people are coming to me like, we've now expired. It didn't happen. Blah, blah, blah. And that agent was like, no, I promise you I'll do more than Chris is going to do. And I challenge you to tell me that, and now they want me to pick up the pieces when now they already reduced lower than what I came in on and what I would have got them on. That was my rant on Facebook the other day. It's just like, do what you say. And there's no reason to tear anybody else apart. Do you, be you. That's it.
Yeah, this is, good advice from somebody that's been doing this for, 20 years, right? When you're over promising and under delivering, it just is a recipe for disaster. It's a quick exit out of the business. You're going to get some short-term wins probably, but at the end of the day, the consumer is going to be the one that takes a hit. So be a professional, promise professional level service, and then go and deliver that plus some, and you're going to have a great career in real estate. Anybody else with some commentary around this topic? Because I think it's an important one. Any other scenarios that have come up? You're like, hey, this came up with somebody that had another agent. How should I have handled it? Or this is how I handled it. I'll end with this one. The other thing that I've seen a pro do, right, is when they've got a relationship maybe with that other agent, you're going to call up that other agent and you're going to say, hey, you know what? I just got this phone call. The client mentioned your name, right? Here's what I think is going on, and here's how I think you should handle the situation. But just be careful, because if it was a different agent, you would have lost this client, right? So, and that's the type of thing that can happen when you start to build some rapport, when you are the agent that is collaborative in the marketplace. You might get that phone call, right? Maybe you did just pick up a client yesterday. You haven't had a chance to do a buyer's presentation. They know your name. They gave your name, but you haven't done a full buyer prep, and you haven't explained how the process works, right? So that is, how we can work together as agents. So I'm not saying, your job as a top producer is to go out there and take clients from other agents. That's not it, right? It's to make sure that the buyer is educated, because, 9 out of 10 agents are doing this part-time, and they're not going to deliver the level of service that you can deliver as a professional to that client. I think clients out there in general deserve better from the realtor community, right? That's the bottom line. There's just too many people that kind of sort of dabble. And we are starting to see the gap widen, and I think it'll continue to widen as we professionalize this industry. But in the meantime, right, just some things to be thinking about. So hopefully there's a little bit for you guys to think about heading into the weekend. Maybe you got some clients that you got to have a conversation with that you haven't explained the process to, because I'd hate to see you lose somebody that you've been working with for a while. So go kick ass this weekend. Appreciate you guys. We will do it again on Monday. We'll take a quick look at the training that is available. Let's see what we got. A couple of opportunities, Every Door Direct Marketing. Those are those postcards for geo farming, and then Mastering the Art of Seller Services is another good one that's available today. So, and my screen sharing is just not working, as I can see you guys are not seeing that. So who knows what's going on with that, but a couple of trainings available today. Go have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys again on Monday. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.
Have a good one,
great
Steve.
weekend.
Bye.